As I am sure you're aware, as we are doing this show live, we are getting the early information from the at least 2 explosions that rocked the airport in Kabul. It was also, there was gunplay as well in the area. And we're gonna give you these initial details, but understand that anything we say here should be taken with a grain of salt, because details, sometimes clash between sources, and it can be controverted by information that comes out later. So bearing all that in mind, at least 2 blasts rattled the area outside Hamid Karzai International Airport in Kabul on Thursday, according to the Pentagon. Just hours after there were warnings that you might have seen. That itself was breaking news, that they were asking for people to leave the area because they thought some sort of threat was imminent. Now, we don't know exactly the numbers of injured or dead. Reporters at a nearby emergency room said that at least 20 people had been brought to the site. And so, as I said, this followed up warnings. The US Embassy in Kabul had advised citizens to avoid traveling to the airport and said those already at the gates should leave immediately, citing unspecified security threats. And a senior US official had warned last night, our time, of a specific incredible threat by an affiliate of the Islamic State Khorasan, or ISIS-K, against the airport. Despite such a specific warning, considering the crowds of literally thousands of people, if it was a suicide bomber, and we don't know for sure that it was, it is easy to understand how difficult it would be to actually find a person in all of that chaos. And it's a terrible situation because, of course, they get the intelligence about a possible attack, Viviana, and they want to clear people out, but those people are terrified about not being able to get out of the country. They understand that there's only a few days left where the US is, as of right now at least, going to be involved in getting people out. They might worry that if they leave that area, they'll be at more at risk of the Taliban doing something to them. But if they stay, something like this could happen, and indeed did. So why don't we bring up this map as we talk a little bit more? You'll be able to see a bit of the geography of the area. But Viviana, bearing in mind that of course this just happened, what are your thoughts?
I mean, immediately, my heart, it's horrific. My heart goes out to everyone who's affected by this. The fear alone, even if you weren't at the airport when this happened, just the fear alone of being in this kind of destabilized area. It's really just, and I know you've talked about it before, it's just like, this is what US imperialism does. I mean, this is what happens when we do not care about people of a country. We looked at the panic that set in here with people trying to buy toilet paper. I can't blame somebody for going to the airport. I can't blame somebody for saying, well, people left, people were flying out. You might have a chance. If you stay home, then that might be your last chance to get on that plane, especially knowing that the US is continuing to close everything down and ship out, literally. So I really, it's not an easy solution. This is something that was started by the Trump administration, and don't for 1 second think that they weren't handing this power to the Taliban. And
you're talking about the pulling out there, yeah.
Yeah, and Biden was saying that not that they're responsible for it, obviously, this explosion, but Biden is saying the buck stops here. But I feel like either side, blue and red, both have interest financially in this region. So whatever's happening is not by mistake. I just hope that Biden stays true to his word about the buck stopping there, and not with military support, but with the UN coming there for humanitarian aid. It's very sad to me when I see the ISIS-K soldiers. They're like 12 years old. They are so young. I don't know if you've seen any of the footage, John. I look at them and I'm just like, what is happening over here? These are young people fighting. I mean, they're following orders. We haven't seen what's really gonna play out here, and it's very, very upsetting. I was very upset to see that news this morning. We knew it was kind of coming though.
Yeah, and look, we're saying that is who officials in the area are saying is responsible or is believed to be responsible, but we obviously have no idea, and I can't even assert to what extent the people relaying this information have any idea. It certainly seems credible, but it's not the only potential explanation for how this might have happened. I mean, the entire thing is madness. Whether it was them or whether it was the Taliban, like in theory, the people that are fleeing are the people who don't share your values anyway. The whole thing is just obvious madness. Any sort of mass casualty, incident like this is going to be. I wish that there had been a way that they could have, like beyond just warning people, that they could have protected them better. But I mean, we've known from the very beginning that you get this huge crowd of people together, and there was the possibility that something like this could happen. Particularly because of how the security situation there has changed from the fall of the Afghan government to now. So to demonstrate that a little bit, I want to go to a bit of video from reporter Charlie Dagata, who's in Kabul talking about what's happened.
We believe the attack happened at Abbey Gate, and that's where there are US and British soldiers on the inside perimeter of the airport. And you have Taliban forces and Afghan forces who are also trying to provide some level of protection around the airport itself. It is a large-ish, complex place. There are 4 main entrances, as Ed was discussing earlier. But there are several roads reaching the airport, and especially now, it used to be a nightmare to get there because you'd have to go through 10 or 12 checkpoints, Afghan security checkpoints, to get anywhere near the airport. Obviously, those checkpoints are gone, and the US and the Brits have done what they can to sort of reestablish an inner perimeter to that airport. But as far as the outside, it is permeable.
Yeah, and there were the explosions, there was gunfire, there's the possibility that there could be further attacks. There are still several days that this is going to be going on. And of course, the effort to get people out, or people trying to get out, is not going to stop as soon as the United States is no longer there or the soldiers back out. But I'm already worried about how, Viviana, how some in the US media will respond to this. I mean, the media coverage of Afghanistan has already been thick with people who are involved in getting us there and want us to be there for the rest of, the rest of Earth, basically. And so they'll use this. They'll say, well, look, there's violence because we didn't expect that there would be violence. So we got to send more soldiers and that sort of thing. I expect that we're going to see a lot of people making that sort of case.
But to your point about not knowing for sure what exactly is going on over there right now, I do think our best bet of having truth and reporting is going to be now, before the Taliban takes over even more and starts controlling what news is being released. So, I feel like there are a lot of people who are okay with seeing this happen, even though in front of the cameras they're going to say they're not. Nobody wants to see suffering of humans. I don't think that there's anyone out there going, yeah, that's what I want. But I do think that they think it's a necessary evil, because when you practice US imperialism, you are okay with this kind of violence taking place because the end justifies the means. And it's really sad. We're going to see a lot more. Yeah. And the embassy, I feel like they might have known this was going to happen already. The embassy said just yesterday, get away from Abbey Road. If you're there now, get out of there. I mean, it was listed there on the warning, and I can't expect for people to have taken that, and just run with it, because what are your options? Especially you see there is some protection there. You see that there are some US forces still there. You see that there are Afghan forces, and you're hoping that that's going to protect you. I think there's more of this to come, and it's really horrific for the Afghanis.
Well, and again, these numbers are going to change, and sometimes things get reported and are totally reversed. But originally I had seen that 3 US Marines had been injured. Now I'm reading in the Wall Street Journal that 4 US Marines had been killed. The Taliban had said 13 people, including a child, had been killed, including some of their own soldiers had been injured, which is one of the things that's leading people to believe that it's ISIS-K rather than Taliban, which seems to make sense. I don't think that's necessarily a lock, but so yeah, the death toll is going up every time we get more news out of this.
But the Taliban is actually known for creating these offshoots, so this might be within their plan as well, to kind of create more instability and more. Well, look, we'll protect you from ISIS-K. We can do that. There's a lot going on here that we don't know yet.
That's beyond my knowledge of the.
Yeah, we don't know. That's the point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, what we do know, at least going into all of this, and this is information coming from before the 2 attacks. Obviously, there are a few more days where they're going to be trying to get people out of Kabul. An estimate had been put together trying to figure out how many people, in theory, might have directly aided the US occupation that might now be vulnerable and need to get out. That's obviously not everyone who is vulnerable, but it's the definition most in the media and the government use. And so if you look at this, There's the current pace of the evacuation, and they believe that by the 31st, they'll have been able to get out 200,000 people potentially. As of like before this attack, we had gotten out 82,300, which is a lot of people, admittedly. Almost certainly this is going to slow down the pace, at least for the next day. And as I said, there's a possibility of more attacks. So that could result in tens of thousands, at least thousands of people not getting out that otherwise would. And they say 250,000 Afghans that might be eligible for US visas based on their history might still be there. And so only a small portion of the total amount have been evacuated, even if in absolute terms, it's a lot of people.
I have confidence that all of the Americans will get out. I do not have confidence that all of the Afghanis that do want to leave are going to be able to. That process is notoriously difficult, and there's all kinds of red tape, like, oh, well, you didn't stamp this, so you don't have this one form. You're at the back of the line again. So I really hope that that's streamlined. If the buck stops here, Biden, then get these people out. The people that want to leave, they should be able to leave.
For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.